Welcome to the Mills Knows Bills podcast. My name is Mills Bender. I'm the founder and CEO of Mills Knows Bills, where we help you, variable income earners, master your money in 90 days. The point of this podcast is to help you make the most of your fluctuating income so you can stop living paycheck to paycheck, pay off your debt twice as fast, and get on track toward reaching both your personal and professional financial goals. Now, as I continue to grow my team here at MKB, you may have some guest hosts from time to time. However, our goal does not change. Whether we're bringing in a guest speaker, having an in-depth conversation about our personal finances, or talking about a topic that is of interest to you, our goal is to help you master your money. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Mills Knows Bills podcast, where we answer your burning financial questions. I'm your host, as well as the CEO of MKB, Mills Bender. With me today, I have a very special guest. It's not a business owner who has a question. It's actually one of my team members who's going to help answer a question that was submitted to us. So Jen, please take a moment, introduce yourself, and then we'll get that question asked.
Thank you, Mills, for having me, first of all. So my name is Jen Fizer. I have been a CFO for the last decade or so. I've not recently bought a business, but I had a business for 5 years that I've recently sold. And so I'm doing fractional CFO, going back to my roots. I have, like I mentioned, been a CFO for the last 10 years in several different industries. And so I am so excited to be alongside Mills with Mills Knows Bills.
Yay! I'm excited to have you here. This is actually the first episode where we're recording content with other team members. So it's going to be a really fun season. But Chloe, with Day of Socials, marketing guru, we had a question that was submitted that Jen and I would like to answer today. What was that question?
We did. The question is, why is my company not profitable and what can I do about it?
So why is my company not profitable and what can I do about it? So I'll take a first stab at it. And Jen, I'll let you also kind of give some ideas on this too. I think it first of all depends on what type of industry are you in. Are you in an industry that is, we'll just broadly say blue collar? Or are you one that's white collar? So on the blue collar side, let's look at your profit and loss statement. How much of your revenue is eaten up by your cost of goods sold versus your operating expenses? In my experience, if your operating expenses continue to increase at the same rate that your revenue is increasing, you are scaling an unsustainable business. It makes sense for your cost of goods to increase at the same rate, but not your operating expenses. So if you're in a blue collar industry and you're finding yourself not profitable, I would look at your operating expenses. The second thing I would do is look at your cost of goods sold, see if you can go back to your vendors or manufacturers and maybe renegotiate some of the terms that you have with them. If you're in a white collar business, look at that operating expenses side, as well as see if you are withdrawing too much from the business or putting too much back to debt. Oftentimes we'll be making debt payments and that does not show up on the profit and loss. And so it'll show on paper that you're profitable, but doesn't really feel profitable. But Jen, you being a business owner who has scaled and sold and also being a CFO for the past decade, what are some key indicators that you've seen with the clients that you've worked with that has made them not profitable?
All the things that you mentioned are definitely things that I would look at as well. My number one thing though would be, if you're not profitable, are your prices in line with what they should be? Because, if you're selling things, if you're working in your business and it's not making money, maybe you should look at what you're charging. And to go along with that, like you mentioned, the operating expenses, that would probably be my next spot to look, because those are expenses that you're going to have regardless of whether you are selling anything or not. So how can we cut those so that it's a more manageable number each month? And then, like you mentioned, the cost of goods sold, is there any way that we can increase the gap there, the margin on your cost of goods sold and what you're selling it at? So if you can work any deals with your vendors, get it at a cheaper price, maybe buy in bulk. Sometimes that seems like a crazy thing to say when you're potentially losing money, but if in the long run it helps you lower your costs, then something that you should look into.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also interesting, and this is something that maybe we can kind of go back and forth on. A lot of times businesses are not profitable because they are focusing their efforts on the least profitable part of their business, right? They have multiple revenue streams and they feel like they should be doubling down on revenue stream A, but the profit margin on B is far greater. That's something that they should move over to. But how would they know which stream is more profitable or not?
Mm-hmm. I was actually talking to a business owner the other day, and he was mentioning to me, he's got, it's a heating and cooling company. And he was talking, he had one company or customer that makes up probably 80% of their work.
Yikes.
And while that's great, not great, actually. You don't want to have it. You want to be a little more
revenue, not for risk.
Yeah. But when he was actually looking at it, because they have contracts with that client, so they're actually being paid way less than they make with every other customer that they have. So when their margins are very slim. So even though that client makes up the largest part of their revenue, the profit on that client is slim. And so they're basically barely covering their costs, which overall makes them feel like they are pinched for money every month because everything that they're doing is not at a high profit margin. Whereas some of their other clients that are, they may not have as much work there, but they are making way more money. The profit is, actually staying in the company
than just breaking even. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a group yesterday of business owners, and we were talking about, how we do ADD with all business owners. The conversation starts somewhere and it ends up completely other side. But the point of where we were at towards the end was collecting accounts receivables on time. And so this kind of goes in line with the question that Chloe just asked. Why do I feel like I'm not profitable? Well, if you're a business owner who has a lot of accounts receivables that are overdue, maybe your main person has not paid you often enough, and you have to leverage a loan to cover your short-term cash flow, you're paying interest on that loan. And that interest is eating into your profit when you do finally collect that overdue receivables. So if you're a business owner that has a ton of money in the street and that you're just not able to collect it, you need to start charging the end user interest to cover the cost of the interest that you're paying because they're not paying you on time. You're basically giving them a free loan. And so that's eating into your profit too. And although that's not the point of the question, right? Accounts receivables, you and I, and even Christian, the other CFO on our team, that's something we see quite often is our business owners have a ton of money in overdue receivables, and they're not really translating it as big of an issue as it needs to be because they're thinking that it's money that they're already counting on, right? And I think you even told me this yesterday. I don't want to butcher how you said it. So can you tell me again what you said yesterday about the receivables and already collecting that money?
Yeah. So if you have a lot of money in accounts receivable, let's go back to this. First of all, that's not a savings account. That's money that you should count on.
Yes.
If it's just sitting, especially after you get past that 30-day mark, because a lot of times anything over 30 days past due suddenly becomes 60 days and 90 days. And then it becomes questionable on whether you're going to actually collect it. And you spend a lot of time and energy chasing down those clients to pay. A lot of business owners don't necessarily want to add in that extra percentage and a half every month that the client is late. First of all, they're worried that they'll lose the client. And second of all, it does take some admin work in order to be able to do that. And so they kind of look at it like, I don't have the time to go through all the invoices and do that. But when you look at it from the perspective, what you just said is you're losing money if you're covering that with a loan or a line of credit. Suddenly it becomes a lot more appealing to maybe get some of that money back.
Yeah. So I want to make sure we keep this podcast episode in a timely manner. If you're a business owner that feels like your company is not profitable, the first thing you should do is look at where your money actually is. Look at your revenue, if you should increase your pricing, and then look at your expenses. See where you're spending the most money and where you have wiggle room to renegotiate that. Jen, if somebody wants to contact you directly and maybe pick your brain on their business, what's the best way they can reach out?
Sure. You can send me an email. It's Jen at Mills Knows Bills. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. You can also go to the website. I think my information is on there, and you can contact anybody from Mills Knows Bills to ask their question.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking time out of your day to join me on this episode, and I look forward to seeing you soon.